If you listen to the Ringer Fantasy Football guys, they brought up an interesting question last week, and they didn't get too far into it, but I'm going to bring it up again here. And it's the idea of if every NFL team had a pick between their quarterback and their coach, how many teams would pick the quarterback over the coach? So I'm going to go through all 32 teams quickly. Starting in the AFC East, Josh Allen's obviously the pick. I think Drake May is the pick for the Patriots, although I like Mike Vrabel. Who knows who Miami would choose at this point. And Aaron Glenn, I think, deserves the nod over Justin Fields, so the quarterbacks take a quick lead. AFC North is split. Of course, Lamar and Burrow, their respective teams would pick them. Mike Tomlin, Kevin Stefanski, I think would get the nod. AFC South, I think it's a debate between Jones and Shane Steichen, so we'll call it a tie. Liam Cohen, I think, is the Jaguars pick. Cam Ward is clearly the Titans pick. And CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryans would be a question mark for me. A lot of people might pick CJ Stroud. I'm going to call it a wash for now. In the West, obviously Patrick Mahomes, as good as Andy Reid is, would be the pick. Herbert versus Jim Harbaugh would be a good debate. I'm going to call that a wash. Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, I think are the picks. NFC East, Jalen Hurts is probably the pick. I think Sirianni's a good coach, not that good of a coach though to pick him over Hurts. Dak Prescott is the guy over Schottenheimer. Jaden Daniels obviously over Dan Quinn. And Giants fans I think would pick Jackson Dart, even though we've only seen him in one start. NFC North has a lot of good coaches. I think between Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, and Ben Johnson, three of the better offensive minds in football. I think all three teams pick them. And you could make the argument Dan Campbell would be the pick for the Lions. I want to be respectful to Jared Goff. I'm going to call it a tie. NFC South, Baker's definitely the guy in Tampa. I'm going to go Michael Penix over Raheem Morris, although you could argue that's a tie. And then I'd say Dave Canales over Bryce Young. And then the Saints, who knows who they pick. I'd call it a tie. And then the NFC West, more good coaches. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDonald. I think all those are the pick. Cardinals would be a good debate. I'm going to put that up for a tie. So in the end, there are more teams that would pick the coach over the quarterback, at least in my opinion. Now, a lot of those ties you can debate. You can debate probably some of them that I picked, but I think the overall point still stands. There's a lot of head coaches out there that teams would not want to get rid of. And so the point is, you want to have a great quarterback. You want to have a quarterback that your team would most definitely keep. But if you don't, you want to try to get one of these coaches, because the Kevin O'Connells, the Sean McVays, the Kyle Shanahans, they've proven they can work with other quarterbacks and be one of, if not the most valuable part of a team. So it's not always the quarterbacks, sometimes it's the coaches.